you know, I just love the way this world is set up. I mean, from this perspective. I want to talk just a little bit about abandonment. Hopefully it doesn't stream too long, but there's a divine point to it. It ties into like everything else, and as an example, we're going to talk about abandonment, but it's me understanding that certain things that we were born into and experiences that we had and chose to experience prepared us perfectly for the unfolding of the awakening process, if we so choose to think of it that way. So growing up for myself, I grew up in orphanages and group homes, in and out of my custody with my mother and things like that, but I had deeply implanted a program of abandonment. I didn't have a father growing up. He was actually in prison my whole life. There was this underlying current, this undercurrent, if you will, of abandonment. And so because that was the initial imprint, I went through life manifesting and longing after certain things that would inevitably leave me feeling abandoned. Whether it was diving completely into something and it ending up going in different directions, and me ending up in a state of solitude, feeling abandoned in that aspect of it, and or being in love with somebody, or feeling as though there's somebody that I would like to be with that just can't be there. Just like with my mother, you know, I needed a present mother and a present father, and both of them chose the drug world and very selfish paths where they didn't understand any of what it is that I've comprehended at this point. But when you create those scenarios for yourself, we have like all these different choices that we can make, and transitions and trajectories. And, you know, I guess based on what kind of person you are, you know, is dependent on whether or not you're going to dive into these things to find out that when you go into the state of abandonment and you feel abandoned and you're doing work, you know, like trying to go inside and figure out how it is that it's being created. You just begin at the beginning, like, why is life like this? You know, like when you don't really know, like, what you know. I mean, like at the very grassroots of it all. And you end up like fully identifying that you're the creator of it all, and that the reasons in which all of it happened is because in those moments that you dip into the abandonment and you sink into yourself and into your heart, you find little trinkets, little treasures, little pieces of you along the way that you otherwise would not have found had you not been triggered by being fed an illusion of being separate or alone. You know, you have to like dive into those things and realize that in those moments where you feel as though you are suffering with some sort of abandonment, that it's really showing you who it is that you are. It's allowing you to be with yourself, to dive into each aspect of why it is your brain even thinks, like, because your brain will go there. Mine went there plenty of times. Like, what about me is worth abandoning? You know, you start that off as a child when you have those kinds of experiences, thinking that there's something wrong with you that makes the whole world disappear. And technically there is, because it's the frequency and the vibration that we're putting out because of the pattern that we've been embedded with, right? So, you know, taking 100% responsibility and accountability for the frequency that we carry is like pivotally important in order to start realizing how these patterns became embedded and what the real belief behind what's going on is. And if there's something that's going on, you can guarantee that you don't like, or that you like, you can guarantee there's a belief system behind the scenes that is navigating and directing things. It doesn't have to be like a thought or a feeling or an experience or a ripple of energy that you even remember. It just is what it is, man. And it's a beautiful experience to be able to identify that and be accountable for everything that we see, and see that all that we create comes from just simple patterns that can be rewritten and be seen as they are and seen as worthy. And by doing so, changing your timeline completely, to go from a place in life where you once thought that the world was out to get you and that you didn't understand your place in it, to understanding that everything was been intricately placed so that you would awaken to something that you might not otherwise have known had you not experienced that, is a game changer. Just point blank, So start seeing the world as something different, as a learning ground that you're the teacher of, You're the teacher, you're the student, you're the scene, you're the scenario. And see what you can learn knowing all of that, and what you can do internally to create the world that you want to see and feel the way you want to feel. Because even in those moments where you once would have felt negative, you'll be able to be like, oh, let's see, what are we going to learn today? It's a great way to look at life.